Hot take. Most brand problems aren't design problems.
They're strategy problems dressed up in pretty colors.
If you're feeling stuck or unsure about your brand, you're in the right place.
And now, let's talk branding. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talk Branding to Me. My name is Jessie. I'm here with my co host, Jamie. And today we are, I think, going to have a pretty fun conversation and do something a little bit different and share a case study. Jamie, I think that might be the right word for it, about how this podcast basically came to be, kind of an origin story. It's timely because I've actually had some friends and family ask me, what made you guys want to start a podcast, or how did this even get started? So I feel like maybe a few others are wondering too, and maybe some lessons that we've learned in our short time of doing it will pave the way for others who might be interested in creating some kind of additional platform for their business, for their brand, in a similar way. So we just wanted to take this episode today as an opportunity for our listeners to kind of get inside of our minds as we do this mini case study about how it came to be, what it started off as originally, because it was something different. And we can talk through that. I know Jamie would agree. We've been friends for several years now in business, in life, and we've always talked about doing different collaborations. We have worked on client projects together, so we've done business together, but we sort of wanted to combine our brands and partner on something fun that would reach an audience, build a community, to use as leverage to not only promote our individual businesses, but also doing work together and then just educating the public, I guess, in general on branding and ways to help them build brands as well. So where do we start? We thought about a lot of things. We considered different iterations of this, not a podcast at first. And we talked about possibly doing a masterclass, maybe doing some kind of training series, something virtual. We have considered doing an in-person event, maybe like a retreat, some kind of gathering, albeit digitally or in person, that brought people together and sort of educated them about branding, specifically women in general, just because that tends to be the audience common denominator, I guess, for both of us, for both of our businesses. From there, Jamie, do you want to explain what that thought ended up becoming and maybe how it's developed out of a seasonal approach?
At the time of this recording, we're nearing summer 2026. So we are actually going to go back 1 year to spring, actually 2025, where we really felt like it was time to put our heads together and build the thing that we had wanted to collab on for so long. We even did a work trip where we were like, we're going to sit down and we're going to map it out and create a strategy and do all the things. Even during that trip, the idea honestly kept changing. And then I do think there was one day, Jessie, where we were by the pool. It's
We
like,
were in Vegas.
yeah, we went where we could get some inspiration, and we were by the pool and just kind of like, I think we've got this idea, and it was kind of something we'd been talking about for a while. And I think if I remember correctly, it honestly was like a course or something like that, where we wanted to just help women get this knowledge that we were seeing that they didn't have. And if they had this knowledge, it would definitely benefit their businesses. So that is where we were headed. And we mapped it out. We had a plan. I think maybe it was like a night or two later, we were out to dinner or something. And all of a sudden I was like, Jessie, I don't think that's it. I felt so bad saying that. And she looked at me and then she was like, you know what? I think you're right. But what is it? If we don't do this? I didn't think it was right. Just something just felt off about it. That wasn't the answer. And she was like, I don't know. And honestly, we left that trip with, even though we had a plan for a thing, it actually didn't feel like it was the right version of whatever that collaboration was supposed to be. So we gave ourselves a deadline and we were like, by I think it was like the end of May or something, 2025, we were going to have our new plan of whatever that was. What came out of that was what we called, and I love this name, Hot Brand Summer. And Jessie, you thought of that, and I still love it so much. So if you need a good name, you can always give Jessie a call. She'll help you brainstorm. But we thought of Hot Brand Summer, and we developed this program. So we still took elements of this course that we were talking about doing. We took elements of that, but we wanted to do it in a condensed fashion, but make it fun, make it hot, make it sassy and flirty and confident. And we came up with Hot Brand Summer, in which we would lead our community of women business owners through the process of doing a brand audit. And why we picked that particular exercise, a brand audit, was because when we, in our respective work with clients, both independently and together, we realized that sometimes we were working backwards. A client would say, I need a logo or I need a website. But then as we dug in with the client and okay, what are your other brand assets that you have? What's your mission, vision, values? And just trying to get a good feel for what the brand is, we found that they didn't really have a lot of that. So we either had to make it up on the fly with our clients in order to help them have these things to complete the project they hired us to do, or the project had to be on hold so we could go backwards and figure out more of the brand. Then we had something to work with, whether it was then doing the logo or a website or a marketing campaign or whatever it was. We thought maybe if we teach people how to do a brand audit, they can discern for themselves without paying somebody to tell them their brand might need a little bit of help. They could discern for themselves, and then they at least have a greater awareness of what their brand needs are. We could certainly help them with the next steps, or they can reach out to somebody else for the next step. But at least they know a better starting point before they get into that investment for their own brand materials. I think it was fun. I think it was beautiful. We created a bunch of tools that we thought were really fun. We came up with what we call the Hot Brand Glossary. We had a Hot Brand Manifesto, something that was really uplifting and empowering to women as the leaders of their brands and what they're building. Like, hey, we're going to be proactive. We're going to have a specific mindset, but we're not just going to sit back and let our brands just kind of wander all over the place. We're going to be really intentional about how we're building them. This might be a shock, or maybe it isn't, but you've heard some similar language in previous podcast episodes. If you've been around here for a minute, you have heard us talk about very similar things. And so, gee, I wonder where that came from. We did it last summer. We picked summer because normally that's a slower time for us. And we also felt it would be a time where anyone who wanted to participate in Hot Brand Summer, that they would have some time, whether they're on vacation, whether maybe their business also had a slower time of year, kids are off of school. It was designed to be pretty flexible. It was a reasonable amount of work on a weekly basis for 4 weeks. And every week we automated the emails and they just tackled one piece of a brand audit. And then at the end of a few weeks, they had a complete audit done, and then we gave them suggestions for next steps. But all along the way, we were supporting them with a Facebook community. We had weekly hot brand chats, which I loved so much. And all these resources we created, we really wanted to make branding fun and we wanted to make it approachable and just make it an experience to get people excited about digging in to do something that's not really necessarily considered sexy, so to speak. It's kind of roll up your sleeves and dig in kind of work, but it's necessary work in order to then have the foundation you need to build a really great brand. Jesse, is there anything you'd like to add to that? I sort of blew through a lot of those details really quick.
Yeah, no, that was a good way to explain it. We basically created a branding program for women, and we just thought that time of year, we understood that some people need to take a vacation, an actual vacation from their business through the summer. So some people check out and lay low, and some people use the time to ramp up and refresh things to carry them into, the remaining half of the year and a busy fall and winter. So we did want to capitalize on the season. We learned a lot along the way just in terms of creating a platform, building a community, getting followers on social media, sending emails, building an email list, all of the things that we utilize, in our businesses and that we help clients with all the time, right? We've done this type of work for years, but bringing our brands together, I think it was a good way to blend the two, to blend Untethered Design Studio with Embellished Brands, creating this sub third brand
Yeah,
under that, those two umbrellas coming together and creating a branch of our businesses in a
joint
way that
venture.
a joint venture, exactly, in a way that it was its own brand that could stand alone, but it was also a representative of this fun little marriage between Untethered and Embellished. Really, I guess we can speak to designing the logo, the color palette that we came up with, all of that was very bold, fun, again, sassy, using rich, saturated colors, very much playing off of the summer theme, pool vibes, cocktails, confident language, allowing women to dig deep and find a way that they could move forward in their business with maybe more clarity and with more confidence, especially if they felt like they needed it, right? Like as business owners, we get caught up in serving our clients, and sometimes our own brands are left to the wayside and we don't always market ourselves or always check in with where our brand stands because we're busy helping others to build theirs. So I think it was a good way, and we even talked about this, Jamie. It was a good way to kind of check in with our own respective brands too, because we were creating this hot brand summer brand, but then it allowed us to just figure out how we maybe needed to improve our individual marketing efforts. It allowed us to kind of re-engage with our email lists, with our social followings, because we didn't want to confuse people and have them be like, well, what is this hot brand summer? Again, like you said, it's just a joint venture. It was just something we teamed up together to do. It was just a seasonal, effort. But I think it allowed us to revisit our own business brands, maybe think differently about how we were helping our clients to build theirs. It just kind of gave us something fun and different to do and a little bit of a departure from our daily
Yeah.
workload that we very much get sucked into doing and are consumed by. So it was something fun. And the goal was not necessarily, oh, it has to, make money or have this huge following. It was like, hey, if we help a handful of people to look at a new way to sort of refresh and recharge and building or rebuilding their own business brands and we get good feedback, then that's cool. And we take that and we figure out how to carry it forward and maybe do it differently next summer. Well, here we are and it's next summer. So fast forward to now. And I guess if we go back a few months towards the end of last year, and really actually post Hot Brand Summer, we were having conversations around what does this look like, in 2026.
Well, and Jesse, I mentioned the hot brand chats. And well, first of all, let me just say anything that could go wrong technology wise absolutely went wrong. We definitely had to dig in and persevere. We would get frustrated, but we would dig in and persevere anyway. And then at some point in that whole process, we were doing weekly live chats. We had a schedule of topics that we wanted to talk about as a way of educating our community about various branding topics. But then those conversations served as hopefully maybe a little bit of training for those that needed to learn a little bit about those topics. And it would help them with the Hot Brand Challenge, with was doing the brand audit. But through that, as we were sitting down, we were scheduling the times that we would sit and have these hot brand chats. And as we were planning out topics, the rules had changed. So we couldn't go live anymore because we didn't have enough followers on the Hot Brand Summer account because it was very new. So then we had to default to pre-recording our chats. So we did that on Zoom and then we just released the video I think every Monday afternoon or something like that, and then had the video with our pre-recorded chat on there. Gosh, what does that look like today, Jesse?
Recording ourselves.
Yes. So that was the point as we got to the end of summer and the challenge had wrapped up and the whole program was done and we were like, okay, let's do a little debrief. Let's, pros, cons, what worked well, what didn't work well. We knew we wanted to repeat it as an annual summer program. And as we were just kind of having that debrief conversation, one of us said, well, I don't want to wait till next summer, but like what if we figured out a way to continue our hot brand chats? Because that was really fun. And it seemed like they were really helpful. So then the idea turned, well, why don't we turn it into a podcast? Eventually the conversation was, well, it might be kind of weird to have a hot brand summer podcast when you're in fall and or it's Christmas time. It didn't make sense to have a seasonal brand for a long-term project like a podcast. So that really is a part of the case study that we wanted to bring up today is the evolution of a brand. And, everyone has an origin story, but it doesn't mean that what something looked like at its conception is what it's going to look like forever and ever. It can change and it probably should change. So this is one of our takeaways that we would like to share with you. We've talked before about stewarding your brand. As the brand leader, as the brand builder, you're responsible for shepherding your brand. And so that is what we definitely tried to do as we thought, well, maybe we're not going to wait till next summer, but what can we do in the interim and what would that look like and so on and so forth. And then as we got to the point of considering maybe there's a different brand here that we might be building, what would that look like? How would it relate to Hot Brand Summer? And we had those conversations. That actually brings us to a couple of points that we wanted to make today. Jesse, if you would like to share those
Yeah.
details about what Hot Brand Summer looks like moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. As Jamie said, going from the format of the chats and just having conversation, I want to touch on was kind of the biggest thing. What do we enjoy most, and how it kind of goes back to just the coffee chats we used to have years ago. I have thought all along this podcast journey so far how fun that we went from connecting in person, the evolution of that developing into a friendship and a personal and professional relationship, and just having community, having conversation, just connecting with people. That's what we enjoy doing, and we can sit and talk for hours. So, A, we can do that personally and just talk about life, but how fun that we can also sit down and take our knowledge and sort of distill it into just like actionable tips and tricks and things that will hopefully benefit someone when building a brand. But my biggest lesson has been just seeing how you can create a platform and how you can repurpose it. The core of this is that, we started off recording on Instagram and then just recording regular video, and we repurposed it when we had to pivot and we were limited technologically. We could post on Instagram, post on Facebook. At the end of the day, recording our voices, putting our voices out there, teaching on something that hopefully someone can take something away from. It doesn't matter what that looks like. So whether it's a program like Hot Brand Summer was at its inception and how that's developed into the podcast we have today, at the end of the day, it's just about finding your voice and not being afraid to put it out there. I think what we do is kind of brave. A lot of people would probably be a little nervous to put out a podcast. Not that I've not had my inhibitions about it, but we are also brand builders. We're storytellers. We're used to crafting messaging and helping clients find their voice because that has to come through in every aspect of branding. So I guess I just think it's really fun how this summer program, which was born from so many different ideas and a combination of this sort of coming together, is now something that is a platform that can be more evergreen. It doesn't have to be tied to a specific season, and it can cover such a range of topics, even beyond strategy, beyond brand audits. I feel like what's really fun about this podcast is we cover anything and everything branding,
Yeah.
what we've done so far, and with so much more to come. It's about just creating content that resonates with people and makes a connection. The talk branding to me, I mean, I don't even remember. We went through different iterations of that as well, as far as, well, okay, if we're not gonna call it Hot Brand Summer and it is going to be a podcast that, hey, someone can listen to even a year or two from now and still find relevance with it. I know we looked up different podcast names. We looked up what was out there. We did a lot of Googling. So where we landed on with talk branding to me was just kind of, I don't know, I guess it's kind of obvious. We just literally talk branding. We talk branding with each other, and we hope that we put messages out there into the world, especially for women business owners that hopefully benefit them. But it all comes back to just checking in with your brand. And you can make a plan, you can build a platform, and nothing is ever permanent, right? Done is
Hmm.
perfect. We say that all the time. You're allowed to create something and it can pivot. There can be different iterations of it. You can see what works and what doesn't. You can repurpose even brand assets that you've created, maybe in a different way. So I know we touched on how we kind of brought Untethered and Embellished together to create this Hot Brand Summer fun brand that was a blend of the two. Well, we took it a step further with the talk branding to me. And to be honest, it's a little bit of a departure from Hot Brand Summer, but it also has its similarities. Like, we still keep some boldness and some fun elements and a brighter color palette that we hope attracts people and complements the businesses that we have. So if you
Yeah.
really look at Untethered, Individually from Embellish, you can see similarities, and that probably comes from also just us sharing a lot of common traits and
Mhm.
how we tend to work and deliver work and put our brands out there, and then how that gets birthed into Talk Branding to me. Again, its own brand that can stand alone, but very much kind of this baby born from like Untethered and Embellished together.
Yeah.
It's this podcast I think has been really fun because it brings together all the ideas that we had, and it's still derivative of Hot Brand Summer. Without Hot Brand Summer, we wouldn't have
This
this
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, Jesse, if you had asked us last year, in May 2025, hey, what do you think about a podcast? I think we both probably would have said, no, that's not something we want to take on at all. We want something with bookends, like we can tie it up with the bow. It's got a timeline. We're in, we're out.
Yep.
Just at least that's what we were thinking. It wasn't necessarily an ongoing thing. It was just that project that we were looking for that we could collab on and bring your expertise and my expertise, put them together, build something really fun and creative that we could share with our mutual target audience. And I don't think the podcast was even something that ever got thrown out as an idea for a collaboration. So here we are. My, how quick things can change. That is something, I definitely want to leave with our listeners today. As you said, Jesse, brands can evolve. If we think of that phrase, something can be for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I think Hot Brand Summer was definitely the culmination of a bunch of other ideas before it. And it became something and it was really good. I'm really proud of what we built through that. But then it became the catalyst for something I would say maybe even better, but something that definitely made more sense, but we would have considered the podcast if we hadn't gone through the experience of creating Hot Brand Summer as a program with all of those different elements, which included the Hot Brand chats that spurred this podcast idea. For those of you who are listening, if you are feeling frustrated that maybe you have too many ideas and not enough time to do them, pick one, see how it goes. And then maybe you'll learn something from doing that one thing, and it might spark something that you can tie in with some of these other ideas that you've already had. Over time, you just don't know what kind of beautiful result that you might get from these ideas, but you've got to start somewhere. And I do think as small business owners or as busy leaders in whatever type of organization you're working in, we often put these ideas on the back burner, especially if we consider them to be fun, because work comes first, or client work comes first, or the bigger goals, bigger priorities, whatever that is for you. We tend to put that stuff first. And anything that feels like it's extra or extravagant often doesn't get the consideration that maybe it deserves. I would challenge you that if you've got any of those ideas that have been sitting on the back burner, or maybe even just a spark that's in your heart where you have this idea and you're like, I don't really know, or I don't have time, or that doesn't make sense. What if you just gave it a shot? Or what if you just started small? If there's a smaller version of that thing that you can create and just put out in the world. And honestly, even if nobody sees it, the fact that you did the thing is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. You are going to learn. We learned a lot. We thought we knew Facebook. Okay, let me tell you about all of the things we had to troubleshoot when we were just trying to do lives last year. That caused us to pivot and adapt, and we often had to do it really quickly because we told our audience we were going to be live on Monday at 1 or whatever time it was, and we weren't there. So we had to quickly figure out other solutions to uphold our end of the deal. And we learned from that, and we took that information and we applied it to our podcast preparation process. So whatever that looks like for you, I would just encourage you, take action. It doesn't have to be big. Start somewhere, and you can build on that experience, or even just the process of building it will give you information that you could then use to apply towards a different project in the future.
I completely agree, and it can be whatever you want it to be. It might be an email series that you create and send out to your list and to build potential clients. It can be a blog, it could be a vlog or a YouTube channel, it can be a podcast like this. It could be a virtual endeavor. It could be an in-person retreat. I have clients who host retreats that are so fun. I want to go on them myself because they look so cool, but I know the time and work that goes in to putting something like that together where you're physically in person bringing people together, right? That's a whole other feat in and of itself. When you're just kind of thinking about maybe ways to build your brand, and think about the goal. Is it to put out free information? Is it to monetize something? Is it just to build a following in a community that can maybe turn into people that are converted into clients, maybe down I think you have to just figure out what the goal is, what the
Mhm.
intention is. I have people ask me about this podcast because they don't know. Do you make money with that? Is it for your business? Well, there are a lot of things that go into it. If one day, hey, we have sponsors and this is monetized,
Mhm.
great, but
Yay!
that's a reach, for hopefully, stretch goal, I guess. Yeah, so it'd be great. But no, in the meantime, if this is something that again just kind of educates and informs people, and you never know when you have someone listening, could have a listener right now that's like, hey, these women are really knowledgeable. They could help me build a brand. Hey, it becomes a potential client. Wonderful. Please contact us. But that's not the immediate goal either, right? Like the podcast can serve multiple purposes. I think you just have to figure out what you want to do and why you want to do it. Most importantly, the why and what that looks like. And again, building a platform, building a community can take all kinds of shapes and forms, right? So for us right now, it's a podcast. Maybe we take this podcast and we create an in person retreat for listeners one day. That would be really cool, right? That could be maybe a year or two from now, but we're always kind of dreaming and scheming and planning. And I think that's also just part of how we are wired as entrepreneurs. And we're always thinking about what's next. So we're enjoying where we're at in the meantime and how Hot Brand Summer, a fun little summer program we developed last year, turned into this current podcast that we are tackling, and that I think that we're having a lot of fun with.
I will just add, at this point in time, we talked about how we initially wanted to bring Brand Summer back to 2026. And I guess the point of this podcast is to tell you that we're not actually going to do that because we put on the calendar that we were going to have this conversation in March of 2026, and we did. And at that point, as we were actually just days away, the podcast wasn't even live yet, you guys. We were already planning what was going to happen months down the road. We really felt like we loved where the evolution had taken us as we were trying to figure out how we were launching Hot Branding to Me and then bringing in this other Hot Brand Summer brand. Is that going to be confusing? What is the point of doing it? So we went through some of those brand strategy type conversations ourselves. And ultimately, we felt like we can appreciate Hot Brand Summer for being the catalyst for what we have today. And just because we thought we were going to bring it back and it was going to be an annual thing, we could also let it go because it wasn't something that we felt really served the current brand, Top Branding to Me, that we were working so hard to build. Based on that, what we are going to do is we still have these resources that we built for anyone who is listening. If you are intrigued by Hot Brand Summer, if you are in a place where you feel it's been a while since you've checked in with your own brand and you want some guidance to walk through a process of auditing your brand, then we are going to keep our Hot Brand Summer Challenge available for free. All you need to do is go to the link in the show notes and you can sign up for the Hot Brand Challenge. Basically, it's going to be just automated weekly emails that you will get. Every week, you will get a checklist of things that you are going to audit and review inside your brand. And as you do that over, I believe it's 4 weeks, you are going to see spots that are looking really great. And then you're going to see areas that might need more attention. That is the whole reason for walking through that exercise. We break it down for you. You'll get it done in about a month. And we think the pace is pretty reasonable. If you've got some big summer plans or whatnot, you should still be able to squeeze it in. But of course, you can work on it anytime. Hopefully, that helps you gain clarity on how you want to approach those changes. You at least have a focused to do list for your brand, and you can then build a strategy around how you will address those items on that to do list. So, we're making that available to you. That's not going away. You have that as a resource year round. So, even though it's called Hot Brand Summer, anytime you're listening to the podcast, at any time you sign up for the Hot Brand Summer Challenge, it will be available to you And then, of course, we have some other resources, one of which we have repurposed. If you are interested in understanding more of the industry language around branding, we call it branding jargon, we have our Talk Branding to Me branding glossary. That actually used to be our Hot Brand Glossary. We've just rebranded it and changed the look of it, changed the name of it, but it is still the same asset that we had used for Hot Brand Summer, and that is available in the show notes as well. So you're welcome to download that. And again, we're just hoping that these tools help make branding more approachable and help you take more ownership over managing your brand and doing it in a proactive way instead of a reactive way. We want you to just be diligent about building and stewarding your brand into the future. Those are the ways that Hot Brand Summer will live on year round for all of us, for anyone who wants to take advantage.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. I think that was a great conversation today, Jamie. Thanks for hopping on with me. We will be back again soon with another episode of Talk Branding to Me. Thanks so much for listening.
Before you go, if something clicked for you today, please share this episode with one person who needs to hear it.
And while you're at it, follow us on Instagram or grab resources at talkbrandingtome.com.